Hey there, folks. I'm up here on a cliff. This is Blue Lake. That cavern up there is the famous Blue Lake rhinoceros. You may wonder, how on earth does someone find a fossilized, it's actually not a fossil, it's a lava cast of a rhinoceros on a random cliff?
Our story starts 15 million years ago in what is now eastern Washington state, where a long extinct genus of rhinoceros named Diceratherium died in a shallow lake. We don't know how it died, but we know it's dead because of how bloated the remains are. Look at its tubby tummy. This sculpture was based on casts and measurements taken within the rhinoceros cave. But how exactly does a rhinoceros turn into a cave? Our poor Diceratherium died right before a fissure eruption. Fissure eruptions occur when the ground cracks open and magma seeps out, turning into lava. This lava then encased the rhinoceros. Because it was contacting the rhino and the water it was floating in, the lava turned into pillow basalt, and that entombed the rhino for millions of years. The rhino sat and decomposed within a cliff until erosion exhumed the rhino from its tomb. A flood of glacial Lake Missoula, with the flow 10 times greater than the flow of all of the rivers on planet Earth, swept across the lands. A wall of water 1,000 feet tall, moving 70 miles per hour, carved out the scablands of eastern Washington, eventually traveling to Portland and then the ocean. There were around 40 of these floods, starting 1.5 million years ago, ending about 15,000 years ago. These floods carved out coulees and created lakes such as this one at Dry Falls. It may not look like it, but this is the location of the largest waterfall in the history of our planet. 5 times wider than Niagara Falls and over twice as tall, the torrential flood plunged 400 feet down and carved that lake into basalt bedrock. The product is a plunge pool turned lake. Between the Missoula floods and the slow and steady force of traditional erosion, what was once a rhino encased within lava at the bottom of a lake was now a cavern 2/3 up the way up a massive cliff bordering a lake. In July 1935, George B. and Ruth L. Peabody and Hakon and Asieng Friel are exploring a basalt cliff in Jasper Canyon at the east end of Blue Lake, about 25 miles north of Soap Lake, Washington. The quartet is looking for petrified wood when they find a small cave on a narrow ledge about 300 feet above the lake. Upon entry, Hakon Friel finds bone fragments scattered on the ground. Opposite the entrance, he also discovers and removes part of a jaw with teeth. He gives them to Ruth Peabody, who takes them to the University of Washington. At the time, the geology department did not have a vertebrate paleontologist, so the bones were given to George Beck, a paleontologist at Washington State Normal School, now Central Washington University. Beck and an assistant visited the cave the following month. HistoryLink.org. Beck described this discovery as a supposed rhinoceros, but not much else happened with this cave until the year of 1951, where a plaster cast of the cave was made by Wyatt Durham and Donald Savage. This mold helped them, along with Walter Chappell, to identify that it was most likely from the genus Diceratherium. The cast was donated to the Burke Museum in Seattle, where it sat in the basement for 28 years. In 1979, Arne Sleepback, the Burke Museum's curator of education, had the idea to recreate the rhinoceros cave within the museum so more people could appreciate it. Sleepback and his team at the Burke Museum spent 450 hours recreating the inside and the outside of the cave. The molds from 1951 were used to inform the inside of the cave, and a volunteer named Steve Nelson climbed up to the cave and took molds along the outside of the cave face to ensure accuracy. I myself scaled the cliff and took a look inside. The cavern is somewhat underwhelming, but the story is super interesting, and I always enjoy being where history took place. If you are interested in going there, there's a hike 2-ish miles each way to get to the cliff, or you can take a boat to get to the beach and then scale the 300-foot cliff. To get inside the rhino is pretty sketchy. It's a 9-foot drop from where the rhino is down to where you are, and the ledge is about 6 to 8 feet wide. And then if you fall off that ledge, you're going all the way 300 feet down, where you will meet a similar fate, dead in a lake as the rhinoceros. So be warned, it is a little sketchy, it is really cool to check out, and it's definitely worth just climbing up there without doing that last little bit to check out the inside of the cave. Just being there, being part of the history and feeling it is a magical experience that I really enjoyed. It's pretty easy to find the cave. There's a giant R spray painted on the cliff, and someone even wrote the word rhino. So you just climb up and bada bing bada boom, you can go inside the rhino fossil with some safety risks. The website history link and the article that I cited earlier were crucial in the making of this video. That's really the spine of this video. I'm just telling that story in a different way. If you want to learn more about the Blue Lake Rhino, please check out that history link article linked down in the description. And also check out some of their sources if you really want to go down this rabbit hole. I also have in the description a conversation between an artist and a scientist from the Smithsonian where they talk about climbing up and investigating the fossil, and they tell the story in a slightly different manner. It's worth watching. And the artist also made a song about the Blue Lake Rhino, which is pretty good. I'm not going to play it here because I don't have permission to play that, but I linked the song down in the description as well. Please let me know if I messed up any of the information I presented today. I strive for accuracy and mild entertainment. If you have any information or personal stories about the rhino, I'd love to hear them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one now. Bye-bye.